carriers, brokers, and dispatchers. You're tuned into the eCarrier Check channel, where we bring you the insider tips, tricks, and insights to drive your sales and logistics business to new heights. Each week, your hosts, Jared and Nate, sit down with the top professionals in the industry, diving deep into everything from prospecting and cold calling to maintaining carrier relationships and maximizing your bottom line. Learn real-world strategies, hear success stories, and get actionable advice you can implement in your business today. So buckle up and get ready for an entertaining and informative ride. This is the eCarrier Check channel, your source for can't-miss logistics intelligence. Stay tuned.
Excited to be on today. Thank you for watching. It's been a wonderful week. We've had so many positive conversations, so many just positive wins. We keep hearing about a lot of the wins. We're excited to talk about those things today. But Nate,
yeah, brother,
how was your week?
Dude,
tell me what's going on. I want to hear something good.
It's been a great week, man. We, I guess I should say, I talked to a few brokers this week, and they're just getting into this industry, and they actually found some luck that like their first couple weeks, since becoming a broker. So that was some really positive stuff to hear. I need to get some more information on how they kind of secured some of those customers, or I know they're doing some quoting, which is cool. I love that. They're getting your foot in the door. But it's been a good week, man. We were on the Logistics Lounge. That was really fun.
What's going on, Joey? Nick, happy Friday. I love
What's up, Nick?
This cat just put out a book.
Yep.
He puts out all these sales tips. If you aren't following this cat, leave his name up for a second. I can't get enough of this guy, man. He's just dominating the house right now.
Yeah.
Go follow him. He's very fun to watch. We're doing today's show based on something that, what did he say? Covering Atlanta to Charlotte Sprinter now. Wish me luck. I love that. Brother. Joey, keep grinding, brother. I hope either the phones blow up on you, and so you cover it right away. But I love that you're covering it while we're watching the show.
That's awesome.
You're trucking and watching the show at the same time. It's so good.
You got 3 screens up, whatever.
But here's the exciting thing about our show is that we listen to our audience, all the people that are coming on. They wanted to hear about today's show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wanted to hear how are some of the mistakes, what are mistakes that brokers are making that are costing them money.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to bring that to you. We talked to a lot of different brokers. Obviously, I've had some experience. But if you've had this situation as a broker, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Throw it in the comments. Let me know what you did that cost you cash. I've had some interesting experiences where I call them scars. I've had some weird scars. And so we're going to talk about that. Something else that I really enjoyed this week too, real quick, Nate, is we started a membership page on our YouTube channel. We did live calls. We actually broadcast it live on here and then transition that video in there Wednesday. We're going to do that for a while here through the end of this year where we're doing live calls. Man, some of those cold calls were dominoes.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a cold call go 12 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Cold call go 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally wonderful cold calls. Some of those follow-ups I've heard from the brokers that I gave those over to, phenomenal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that since we launched our membership, it's just a way for us to keep doing what we do. Obviously, we appreciate whether you're a member or not.
Yeah.
We appreciate the reviews that everyone's leaving. So make sure, if you enjoy what we do and you want to see more, leave us a review, become a member, do what you like. Oh gosh, honestly, I would like to see Tyson win, but I don't know, man. I was watching the weigh-ins the other night, and Tyson slapped him.
I loved it.
It was crazy.
I loved it. Cody called Rocky Balboa all day. I love it.
But Cody, who you gonna pick?
Yeah, I would be interested to see who everyone's taking tonight.
Who am I putting the house on tonight? Huh?
You know, I'm old enough. I remember, and I think his name was Peter McNeely, and he had this really silly, he had this really silly like poem that he wrote. You know, this was like Tyson just got out of jail.
Yeah.
He literally was like, I mean, he was a machine back then. This guy would kill somebody. Now he's, almost 60, but I'm a big Tyson guy. I've always loved him. It'll be interesting to see. I'm really hoping. I'm hoping this isn't a staged match. I hope that he can just.
I'm curious on how much. Let's see.
He did. Bella.
Sound like a chance. Still got Tyson though. He did.
It was incredible.
Hey, Bella.
I think honestly though, we should do this show in Versace underwear like Tyson, just for Tyson's sake.
Yeah,
that was incredible for a 58-year-old man. I hope I look like that.
I wonder how much weed he's gonna smoke. I know he's a big pothead, so I'm wondering how much weed is he smoking before the fight.
Yeah, I bet it's quite a bit.
Maybe some shrooms.
I bet it's quite a bit. I love that. I appreciate everyone jumping in there. Yeah. Joey started off our. I think this is probably one of the more interesting things. Obviously, we're talking about top mistakes brokers make that cost them money. Mm-hmm. If you have a scar, if you've got these things that have cost you money, throw them in the comments. We want, our community is all about driving up each other and helping each other. And I love that about everybody.
Yeah. And some of this feedback that we got, these are from brokers that have been doing this for a while. So if anyone's new, honestly, get your notebook out, write down some of these things that brokers are doing that lose the money. So that way you understand, you can limit your chances.
Absolutely.
This, right?
Yeah.
You don't want this to happen.
You know why I love reading books is that in 2-3 hours, I can learn what somebody's done in 10 years. I can learn their mistakes. I can learn everything that they've done. And I can gain and glean that new knowledge, right? And this is why I love reading books. Nick wrote a book.
I'm not laughing at you.
Get Nate and them Versace undies. I agree. I couldn't even imagine. We're just sitting here doing weigh-ins on our show. It'd be incredible.
Justin, do I need to put you in a timeout so you don't comment for a while? Wednesday was a little hectic, but
Wednesday was hectic.
We are going to have Samantha on too, so when she pops in, we'll jump back into this list.
Absolutely.
So just kind of give you guys a heads up. We'll have a guest on here.
Absolutely. So Joey says, messing up DIM, sending in the wrong size truck has cost me a few times.
Yeah.
That is absolutely. Holy buckets. You hit the head on the nail. We actually lost an entire client over this. In fact, there was a client that we used to do rental equipment, and their engineers, this is kind of interesting, but they built these kind of modified lifts essentially. But if you put them side by side, they were perfectly 102 inches.
Okay.
On a flatbed, right? Perfectly 102 inches. And man, I tell you what, for whatever reason, I didn't ask the question of what your trailer was. And before, just to give you, used to be flatbeds were only like 96 inches wide, right? And I just didn't ask the question on the carrier side, not on the shipper side, on the carrier side. I knew what his requirements were, but I didn't pass that along. I think this is an interesting one because guess what happened? That reoccurring revenue that I had every month, I was gone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Morning, Winkler. Thanks for being here, brother.
What is going on, Taylor? How are you? It's good to see you.
Let's see what Nick's.
Nick is, as a former sales leader with decades in the industry, the number one thing I have seen that costs brokers money is not asking a question that they don't want the answer to.
Yeah.
Woo! They don't ask and pray. It doesn't come up. Method costs money for everyone. Yeah, honestly, and it's a drop in the bucket compared to what it might cost the actual shipper of their customer. Yeah. You really hit it on the head here. Sometimes some of these conversations, man, they can be tough. They can be tough conversations. But assuming will get you into a lot of things. Cody says not understanding customers' FCS before turning in a bid. Rookie mistake I made back in the day. F breakthrough fuel. Yeah. I not understanding the fuel is huge. In fact, actually, for a lot of brokers, in fact, I've sat with some huge brokers, I've sat with some smaller brokers, and they live off of, if they're in that sort of contract space,
Right.
they're just living on the fuel surcharge.
Okay.
That's where they're living and keeping their margin, right?
Right.
And boy, this is such an interesting way of looking at this, because a lot of brokers quote direct flat freight, right? If you call me and say, "Hey, man, how much is it from, Georgia to North Carolina?" Well, $1,000, right? Well, if that client, Cody, this is such an interesting. I'd love to have Cody back on, but that client, he's thinking, well, I really want 850 plus fuel, right? And fuel surcharges can be kind of confusing for those of you who haven't watched them or seen them or been a part of some of those fuel tables.
Yeah.
They're either a percentage of the freight rate or they're by the mile, right? And we had both, actually, when we were next door, when we were running flatbeds all over the country. Some clients wanted a fuel surcharge by the mile. Some clients wanted to buy a percentage, right? Some of them wanted their own fuel table, and some of them were drastically terrible.
Really?
I'll tell you right now, some of these customers, they'd make their own fuel surcharge table, and you're still only getting 7% or 8% or something like that. So not understanding what Cody's talking about here, not understanding the customer's fuel surcharge table, man, this is huge.
Yeah.
What an interesting, I love these up.
Yeah, that's something I haven't thought about.
This one's domino here. I think the one that I always thought was interesting was quoting apples, but getting oranges in return.
Okay.
And what I mean by that was, this will get you in trouble too, is in the bulk world, what I used to do is I used to quote a flat rate to the client, right? And that flat rate was always unique because, I'm like, hey, it's going to be $1,200. And he's like, well, how many tons are you going to get on your truck? And, if you don't know what the product weighs, can you actually get 22 ton on, or is it going to take up more space? Can you actually get 25 ton on, or is it going to take up more space? Right. Well, a lot of these bulk guys, I learned this really early on too. A lot of these bulk guys are going to charge you by the ton, right? And they'll be like, hey, it's going to be 26 a ton. And I was flat rating it on this side. So here's my apples and here's my oranges.
Yeah.
And they didn't meet in the middle. And guess what? This one ended up being more. And I ended up having to pay for that. And it cost me on like 30 loads. I lost money on 30 loads that weekend. It was brutal. And all because guess what? I didn't know what the density of that product was.
Right.
Wasn't paying attention to details. And so that'll definitely get you in a fire here.
Yeah. You learned real quick, huh?
Real quick.
When you lose money, you learn really quick.
Real quick.
All right.
I'll let you bring on the guest here.
Hey, Samantha, how are you?
Good. You just did that without warning. I'm sitting here reading comments and like, thrown in right into the live stream.
No time to waste. We're bringing you on.
Well, you bring so much value. We were like, we got to get her in here. Let's just go. Yeah, we're talking about Samantha, just for the sake of giving you a recap or a Cliff Notes version. Just things that cost brokers money. The audience is putting in their 2 cents and what they have. They're also talking about the Tyson fight, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah, I saw that.
Feisty crowd this morning. I'm excited about it. Samantha, how's your week been? And do you have any thoughts on the Tyson fight?
My week is going well, and no thoughts because I'm a sissy and I can't watch people get beat. So
that's fair. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Like maybe in hockey, like that'd be like I can do that. Like I like watching people get pummeled in hockey, but they have pads and helmets. But yeah, not so much in fighting.
I can live with that.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I can live with that. Always like to hear your 2 cents. Always like to hear what you have to bring. If you don't mind, maybe even talking about some of the things that you've seen that brokers make mistakes in, especially early on. You have been a part of some interesting. You have a great experience with this. I'm sure you have some other things to talk about. But if you don't mind throwing your 2 cents in on what you've seen of some of the issues that brokers have done that made some costly mistakes.
Let's think. In brokerage, when I'm thinking about things you do that can cost you money, right? That's what we're talking here today. Okay. Number one to me is probably more, at least from my perspective, when I was growing more of a startup brokerage and I was more involved in operations. I think the thing that cost us money was, obviously late coverage. So like the longer you wait to cover the load, like the more you're probably going to lose on that, or give up margin. But I think I want to take that a step farther and say, when you are running with carriers who are not like quote unquote load board carriers, so they're carriers who are going to be, mid-sized fleets, maybe even like 20 trucks or more, and they lean on relationships. Those carriers schedule their fleets like 48 hours to 7 days in advance. So like that driver's route is already planned. So you're not going to see them on a load board, 24 hours before, unless something really went to hell, right? Like, so not only can you cover faster, but you're going to cover with a more reliable, maybe more high quality carrier. And so I think if I had to like really tie a bow on this, I would say you leave money on the table every time you're not focusing on your carrier utilizations. Because also everything goes faster, smoother, easier, less manpower. You do more with less when you're reutilizing the same partners each time. And interestingly enough, I was just talking to a newer client of mine. They're a broker, smaller, still like around the $10 million mark. And they were saying, well, I don't think we can really, we're frustrated because we have to go to load board. Sometimes we can't really get carriers because we don't have like the density on these lanes. And I said, no, I think that's a lie. Like, I don't know who put that out there in our heads that you have to have like a load every day in the same lane to justify getting repetitive carriers. Because I distinctly remember a couple of lanes that we ran that were sporadic. Like we didn't even get set days of the week. We usually would get like maybe one a week. Sometimes it was 2 in 1 week and then miss a week. And even on those lanes, we had about 3 to 5 carriers that one of them was going to take it every time. And we gave them like the lead time on it. And we had consistent bookings with consistent profit margins, varied a little bit. We had a couple like preferreds. And if they said no, then the other one was a little more expensive, right? But we still had that. Like we had that source. So we didn't have to stress when we got these inconsistent lower volume lanes on like how's DAT going to treat us this week on these loads. So that, I think that's always going to be like my number one way people leave money on the table, because when you think about brokerage in its purest form, it is strictly how much money you make between a buy and sell. And that margin is just obviously usually the sell's determined, or the money you're getting paid from your shipper is already predetermined. So your controllable variable in that instance would be how well you're buying that capacity.
Yeah, that's such a great, I love that. I'm such a fan. Thank you for sharing that. What'd you come on today? What do you got going on in your mind that you want to share with us?
Oh man. I was just trying to think of I sometimes do like a sales tip Saturday that I do a short video on our company LinkedIn page and just release like a video short on YouTube. But I was kind of trying to plan for that. And I've had it come up a few times now, just in the last month, where I'm like, oh, I can see like response rates to a lot of my clients' stuff when we're working through email training and things like that. And I'm working with sellers. And I was like, hey, you got some responses? What were the responses? Oh, it was just like, I'm not interested, or this isn't a good time, or like whatever. And I'm like, well, what'd you say? And then it's like, and these people aren't like, sometimes you don't even think about it. You're like, oh, they give me like, they say no, I'm not interested. And I have to, your thought is like, I need to be respectful of that. Like they're not interested. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to push, but I just have to like remind them that any type of response is that is like the beginning of your sales cycle. And so even if it's a no, it's like, hey, that's fine. Good thing I wasn't reaching out to get your business today anyway. I just wanted to meet you. So can we meet like in a couple of weeks? And I tell people like, what are you even reaching out for? Were you expecting an onboard that week? Were you expecting a load that day? Some people are, that's problematic. But what you should be expecting is an opportunity to start getting to know somebody, to earn their trust so you can earn their business. And so getting to know somebody doesn't matter if they're not onboarding someone, right? And I'm not saying that it's like, oh, you put it that way, they're going to meet with you, by no means, but it doesn't mean we just give up. And if anything, them saying, no, not right now, I'm not onboarding anyone, I'm like, oh, so you're the one who onboards. Fantastic. Good to know. So, it's not a negative thing. I'd rather get that than get nothing and just have to be wondering.
It's so important too. I think, you mentioned just the relationship side of it. I think it's interesting too. And this was something that I gleaned from you when we first met like a year ago, which I got to say, like we evaluate all of the people that have brought into our lives in 1 year, and you're one of them. We really enjoy like the insights. I've enjoyed getting to know you more. But the one thing that you just said, I love this, because you can go back to them and say, hey, as a broker, here's some of the things that I'm hearing. Would you give me some insight from a shipper's perspective? You don't even have to get business from them. If they can help you sharpen your friggin' sword, let's go. And I love that you're talking about that, because how important is it to, even if you're not going to get some business, let's start to build a relationship. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, hi Ed, how are you? Ed and I have probably talked about this a couple times. I was just talking about this. I've been thinking about this, obviously, trying to have these conversations with my clients, but thinking about, how this is probably the year that some things are going to change. Like we said that, well, we hoped that. I don't know that anybody really felt confident in that in 23 or 24, but 24, really people thought something was going to change mid-cycle, and that was going to be the year that everything got kind of like flipped upside down and shippers were going to need people and all of that. It didn't happen. And I think that there's a chance that it mildly happens at some point in late 25. I don't think it's going to be chaotic. I just don't, by any means. So that being said, I distinctly remember even in 2023, like super crappy year to be selling a new brokerage. That's what I was doing as my full-time job. And I had multiple people say, we're not onboarding, we're not interested, no way. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, can we please just get to know each other? Would love to learn more about what you got going on, tell you about us, if and when your needs ever change in the future. And I got a period where I was probably getting a little egotistical for a while, because I was like, if they'll take a meeting with me, something's going to happen. Like, I'm going to get an onboard. I'm going to get like a spot access. I'm going to get an invite to the RFP, because we had a really strong value proposition at the company that I was with. And I believed in that. And I was able to, confidently articulate that. So they would say, no, I don't want to onboard. I would say, oh, that's great. Let's just get to know each other. And then just in explaining how I operate, what I do, the company I represent, and what we do, they would be like, man, maybe I don't want to pass on this one. So it doesn't happen often. Like, I'm saying like that it would result in an immediate onboard, but it would that meeting almost always resulted in, let's stay in touch. Let's continue to collaborate on the right time. I'm interested in working with you, but it might take a year. And I was like, that's no problem. Like, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. And then some of them were like, well, you know what? We're actually doing like a mini bid on a couple lanes next week, and they would include me and we would get that first chance. Right. So everyone's knee-jerk reaction when they're told to is to say no. That is like a fact. When you realize it's a cold call, you're like, oh, no, not right now. Don't want this. I don't even know what it is, but I don't want it. And like that's the reality. So, but maybe if you let yourself get talked into a meeting and you end up taking the meeting, you're like, holy smokes, I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know that existed. And your mindset flips at some point on that call if the value is there. So if you can bet on yourself as like, if you're selling something, I hope to God you believe in it. Like, I really hope it's worth selling, or you should find a different sales job. And so then you should be confident in like, go ahead, push for that meeting respectfully, right? Like, try to find a way, some commonality, some reason that they're going to want to connect with you. Be likable. Slightly different tangent, but I help some of my clients interview, and I was helping someone interview the other day. And one of the questions I asked someone in an interview is, how do you make yourself likable? Yeah. And like, that probably flies in the face of a lot of people who are like, be authentic, be yourself. And I'm like, no, not in sales. Be who they want you to be for a second. Like, because initially, right? Because they don't know you. Like, you can't just like fly in there being however you want to be before they know you. Like, being likable isn't being fake. Being likable is like being respectful of the personality that you're picking up that they have, the way they want to communicate, like all of these things. So be likable, be respectful, be empathetic when you need to be empathetic. Lots of soft skills that go into sales, like big time. So all that to say, I love a good no, not right now, because it's like the opening of your opportunity.
Yeah, honestly, like what we've been hearing and seeing a lot is, okay, you call a customer and they say, yeah, we're good until, we got people for a year. They got a contract, right? Yeah. Now, the thing where we notice that people kind of like where it falls off, it's like, all right, what am I doing now until that year does come? Like, what am I sending to this customer to add value? And I think a lot of people that we talk with that come to us asking for advice, they're just really confused on, okay, what should I be sending them for a year and not be annoying? And I want to make sure I add value, because a lot of people just give up. They're like, well, I'll just call it a year and leave it at that?
So number one, anyone who works with me is going to know, like, I'm a big believer in like follow up fast, pre-scheduled. So like when you say like, okay, I have a no, I need to make sure I remember to keep in touch. And it's like, you will absolutely forget unless you immediately have some sort of system or structure to schedule that. I like to use tools that have sequences in them so they can be like pre-scheduled activities. I highly recommend Apollo. I have a link for a free sign up for anyone who wants to try that. Even when you pay for it, it is like $100 a month. And it's fully like Zoom info. So I'm going to shameless plug that if you want to get in touch with me and you guys want access to that. But what we use it for is I've encouraged some of my sellers to create what I call a nurture sequence. And a nurture sequence is like, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once every 4 to 6 weeks. Like you're creating a reminder to execute an activity. And what you can do in a sequence is you could update that to be like, from you, it's an email, and it can be like, let's say you're in produce, right? That's your specialty. It can be like, hey, here's several article summaries that I really enjoyed this month. And in the world of produce, things that are going on, metros that we're seeing like hotspots in. If you're a broker and you're paying for freight waves like Sonar, or you're paying for a certain subscription to certain journal things, like you can reshare that with their permission. They usually give it. And not all these shippers are paying for those things, right? They're not paying for a subscription to that. So show them what it looks like in their metros they're in. And find like valuable information is always my recommendation there on your touch points. And then send them with like no ask other than, if you have any questions, let me know. Talk to you later. And that's how you keep in touch without really annoying people and actually positioning yourself as an industry expert, which is how you gain trust, which is how you gain business. So that's my recommendations for touch points. Structure those, plan those in advance when somebody indicates that you need to keep in touch with them. And a lot of times people will say like, hey, we're doing an RFP and whatever, reach out to me in this month. That's common too. And I think they say that because they know that like most people are never going to remember to reach back out, which is crazy to me. It happens all the time. People leave that, like they just lose it. So immediately go in, assign yourself a task in whatever platform you can, if it's your phone or your calendar that you have to use, and put it in there. And don't do it for the month they say the RFP is. Don't do that. Do it like the month before and say, hey, we spoke back in this time. You said to reach back out. I wanted to give myself a little bit of runway here to see if we could get a brief introduction so that we can both decide if it's worth having me on this RFP.
I like this.
Decide that there's like mutual value in getting connected. So
I love that.
It's really all about consistency, follow up, but then like value in that consistency and follow up, right?
Yeah, I like that. Reach out a month before. That's smart.
Yeah. Plus, I even like, I'm a big fan of the aspect of telling them, well, it may not be good for me either, so let's just see if this works for both of us. And so I love that side of it. Samantha, you're always bringing the house. I tell you what, honestly, if you're watching the show, just rewind back 10 minutes and friggin' just start taking notes, because you just put on a master class. That was incredible. Samantha, I saw an exciting announcement that you are speaking at an upcoming conference. Give us a rundown of that. How can people reach out? How can people come see you at that conference? Excited for you in that regard.
I am speaking at Manifest. I'm moderating a panel. Actually, I'm really interested because I didn't pick. I just say I'll moderate and then they place me somewhere. But I'm moderating a panel on procurement, actually. And I don't think it's specific to transportation procurement, but I think it's like all supply chain service, like procurement or like goods procurement. But I think it's going to be really interesting because it's leaders from what we would call like shippers, right, on how they're thinking about procurement for 2025, whether there's factors to consider within like diversity or ESG, or what type of budget goals are getting pushed down from these big, corporations for 25, how they feel about the economy and the market, I think is going to be telling in how they feel about their procurement budgets and plans. So global trade policies, right? That's really going to be interesting. I'm talking to leaders of like AT&T and other procurement top leaders at some of these bigger companies. I'm really interested to see how this is going to all play out, as we'll be this is February. So we're going to be into the Trump administration, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what I'm speaking on. But if anybody would like to go be a part of Manifest, I had a broker ask me the other day, we've never been, is it worth it? Should we go? And my answer was, I said, I'm going to be really honest with you. There's over 5,000 people. You do get an app. So when it gets close to time, you can see who's there. My recommendation is to send at least 1 or 2 people for 1 year and experience it for yourself and see if you take value out of it. When I went as a broker, I did take value out of it. We had several meetings with shippers. We ended up having follow-ups and some onboards and RFP opportunities. And so it was good for us, but it depends on like, what are you willing to put into it? And so give it 1 year, give it a try. If you want to go, if you find me on LinkedIn, you can message me, or on any of my recent posts, there's a link to save $200 on your registration still.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That is.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And then also, Samantha, how do people find you online as well? Like your website?
So you can find me on LinkedIn at Samantha Jones. Just search Samantha Jones. And then my website is www.connectsjc.com. And I have like a Calendly link on there if you need to schedule any time, or a form to get more information about my services, or anything like that. Just also, the website's actually a great resource because I believe it has like the I'm attending Manifest. Here's the discount code. It has all my recent podcast episodes, my recent newsletters. So like we try to use that as our kind of our TMS, if you will, of like the freight world is my website. It kind of centralizes everything.
That's wonderful. Also, if you want to consume other content on Spotify, she does have a podcast called Meet Me for Coffee, and it is wonderful. You always interview industry leaders. So thank you for putting out so much value. Thank you for being on. Samantha, I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. I love it. Mic drop, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she just brings so much value.
She said some things that stood out, because when you're making some of your calls, we've had some of those those shippers were saying, we're not onboarding. Excuse me. We're not onboarding at this time. Try back in a year. Yeah. But you took it to another level. You asked some more questions that led to a 20-minute phone call, even though you had a no already. So I love that she said that, you just ask better questions. Obviously, if you get a no, could be a yes in a year from now. You know what I mean? Like, she got to ask really good questions. That follow-up is truly important. A lot of money on the table there.
I think you have to.
Nick hit it on the head here too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, our comments are on fire today. If you guys are watching, holy cow, so much value, so many great industry leaders on. Thank you for being on. I think you always have to be,
Same, Nick.
What I love about how she said it, her perspective of it, you've got to be a little bit like Jake Paul and be ready for a slap.
Confident. He's confident.
You've got to be confident and have one more question after you get slapped.
Right.
You know what I mean? And somebody said it at the very beginning of the show. He took that slap like a king. He did. And as a salesperson, you have to take that slap as a king and just be ready to ask one more question, because I really value the people that are in our life. We appreciate all the relationships we have. And I really would challenge all of you, those people that you're calling, how do you just build a relationship with them? How do you have the soft skills, those empathetic aspects of, here's those things, something that I was just thinking about a moment ago. It's like, yes, how can brokers lose money? I think about a couple of relationships that I burned as a broker, that I lost those shippers money. And because I wasn't doing my job, I wasn't providing the value that I needed to. And they were little things like this. I didn't ask the question on how does their accounting account for their inventory at the end of each month? Why does that matter? Well, because they need that friggin' shipment picked up off their books so that they show that in that month, right? And so there's little questions like that. If you're not asking some of those questions, what are they measuring? What are their KPIs? Those soft skills, like she mentioned, so important. You know what I mean? So
something to learn, that if you're just new to this industry, this is good stuff to pick up on and start taking on your calls. So
Ed Burns says, bring him cupcakes.
Bring him cupcakes.
I can't get enough of this guy. Ed Burns is one of my favorite people in the world. He and I were just texting, a couple weekends ago. And this guy truly, there isn't a better person in the world that's understood how to build relationships and how to bring people together than this guy. He's the most genuine person I think I've ever met in my life, and a wildly good dancer. I'm just going to throw that out there. Ed Burns, one of the greatest dancers potentially in logistics. I haven't seen Nick dance, so that's another story.
Are we talking swing dancing here?
No, we're just talking about let's just get out there and get some stuff done.
Yeah,
so
I gotta see this.
Nick says the mind shift needs to go from selling to helping.
Yes.
Everyone says they do it. Most people do not think help first. That changes the question you ask and the solutions you pursue.
Yep.
You hit it on the head.
100%.
Absolutely. I love Nick has really brought a lot of value today too.
Yeah. Samantha said too, like a lot of people just not a lot of people, but there's some people out there that like they're expecting to get business that first call. It's just not like that anymore, right?
Not going to happen.
I mean, you said back in the day, maybe it used to be like that, but now it's different. You're selling different.
17, you probably could. You could probably get a quote or, you get them the things in there. As always, the first guy on the dance floor. He is the first guy on the dance floor.
And then you're second, right, Phil?
I know. Nick's like, oh, cut a rug, buddy. Shakira Leonard moves for me.
I'll try to. Oh my goodness.
Nick's hips don't lie. That's
Cue Shakira right now.
Just right now. Just get her across the screen. Oh my gosh. Honestly, even Yenzi, if she's listening, or she had a great comment in here. Losing carry with dedicated freight because you seek random carriers for daily lanes instead of used a crate. I honestly, there's some guys out there, and I know this, that they're like, hey, I'm just going to move this one on the spot market. There's something to be said about staying with your loyal carriers, these carriers that are going to show up with the right equipment, with clean equipment, with respectful drivers.
Right.
And those are things that she's talking about right here. So thank you for being on, Yenzi, and commenting even for that matter. Right. I haven't seen you in the comments, so thanks for being on.
Yeah, we got a couple new faces here.
Yeah, some great new faces. I think today has been very good with eye-opening ideas on what you can do to avoid losing money. And also with what Samantha brought in, booking freight earlier. If you think about what a stock market guy does, this guy's trying to figure out exactly when to sell it at the highs and the lows to make sure that he makes the most amount of money.
Yeah. Timing, right?
Timing.
Yeah.
And she's right. If you can book this freight earlier, well before the day of, there's an opportunity to do planning. Money's in planning, right? And so that's when there's a little bit of magic sauce on when should you book that freight, and keeping that in. There's we could have an entire show on just that, that strategy. So thanks for being on, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, Nick, appreciate it, man.
Wonderful show.
I buy Nick's book too. I don't know if you left already, but drop the link to your book.
Oh,
if you're still here, and I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, dude, I really appreciated the show today. You and Samantha's feedback is phenomenal. I just love hearing freight brokers that are willing to go out and put themselves out there, share their experiences and their knowledge.
I know.
So I love people that give back to this industry.
I do too.
It's not about the money; it's about helping others grow, succeed, things like that. So. I don't know if Nick might have left already, but go check out Nick Klingensmith on LinkedIn. He did drop an amazing book.
It's on Amazon.
It is on Amazon. Go support him. Thanks again, guys, for being here. Have a